Welcome to Handmade Happenings. I'm Marissa, and today I am sharing how to make a pop-up card. This is something that I have done several of since learning how to do this technique, and I will be sharing one of my favorite designs today, which is this bike with balloons. I am using Stampin' Up! Products. I am not currently a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, but they are the primary source of my paper crafting supplies. However, I think most of the supplies that I used are discontinued by this point. And so my primary focus will be on how to make this style of card more so than how to recreate the exact one that I am doing. So I'm starting out with my cardstock base. This is 8.5 inches by 4.25 inches. And I'm using Balmy Blue, which I think is a retired cardstock. And I am starting out by scoring it at 1.5 inches and again at 3 inches. And then you just fold the first scoring line back and the second scoring line forward. And this gives you a 5.5 by 4.25 inch card, which is, of course, the standard size when card making. So the next piece I have is the bottom piece, and it is 8.5 inches by 2 inches. I'm using Pear Pizzazz, and then I am layering a piece that's 8.5 inches by 1.25 inches on top to represent the road, and that is soft suede. The second piece is optional. I'm just doing it because I want to represent a road. If you're doing a different design, you just need the one piece. And these are also going to be scored at 1.5 inches and 3 inches. I'm going to just do them at the same time. That way the score lines will match up. So there we have it. And then fold it same as before. And then these two pieces layer on top of each other. Oh, I'm sorry. Fold it opposite of before. And then now you can see how this is starting to shape up. Actually, it goes this way for mine. So the next piece is the mechanism for the pop-up. And this is 1 7/8 inches by 1 inch. And I'm just going to take this one corner and fold it down so that it comes to the opposite side and creates an angle. So now I'm going to attach this piece onto the back of this bottom piece. I'm just using my Stampin' seal and running a piece along the part that I folded over right here, and not on the bottom part, just that upper corner. And then it gets attached to the green piece. So you have the long side and this fold right here. It gets attached so that the short side is up against that fold and the longer side is over on the away from the fold and closer to that second fold. It's just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and attach my soft suede piece on top, and I'm offsetting it so that it's a little closer to the bottom than the top of the Pear Pizzazz. Next, I'm going to go ahead and attach one end to the blue base. I'm going to attach this end because it's longer and further away from the mechanism, which I'll need to mess with later. So I'm just using the Stampin' seal again, lining up those corners and pressing it down. Alright, so this is prepared. I'm not going to attach the other piece because it's still got to have all the other a few other things attached, and it's easier to do if it is laying flat. So I'm going to set this aside and prep some of my other parts of this card. Alright, so I am using for this set the Fun on Wheels stamp set, and I'm just stamping the bike onto white cardstock with black ink, and I'm going to cut it out with scissors. You could buy, well, when the stamp set was available, I don't think it is anymore, you could get the dies for it. I chose not to just because for stuff like this, it's easy enough to do by hand. So I'm just cutting it out with scissors. Now the pop-up part of this card is going to be a bunch of balloons. So I am taking a balloon punch, I don't remember what it was called, but it is a Stampin' Up! One, and just punching out 3 balloons, and I'm doing 2 smaller ones and 1 larger one out of 3 different colors of cardstock. So this is Daffodil Delight, Pumpkin Pie, and Real Red. Now to position them for the pop-up, I'm just attaching them to a rectangle of Balmy Blue. This is just a scrap. It doesn't have to be too big, and you don't want your balloons to end up too wide, otherwise they won't hide underneath the bottom part. I wish I could tell you an exact measurement, but I don't really remember. So when we get to that part, I will just show you how I kind of, I guess, gauge it. So just attach it. I put the big one in the back and the 2 smaller ones in the front. So now I'm just going to cut around the balloons at the top. And I will trim off the bottom, but it's going to have to wait until after I get the tops all done and I can kind of get an idea of my spacing. So what I'm doing, or what I'm hoping to do, is kind of come in and then go kind of more or less straight down. And do that on this other side. You want the base to be large enough that it's not going to get all flimsy, but you don't necessarily need it but so big. And now we'll take the card base back and flip it over. And the first thing we want to figure out is the height, because the way this card works, this piece is going to fold up. And so wherever this is attached, you don't want it to sit higher than the top of your card. So, I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be lower, but you don't want it too tall either. So based on that, I'm going to flip it over and just cut. Then the other concern is how is it going to lay when it's flat. So you can see I've folded over like this, and it is sitting down here. And if the card was closed, it would stick out the bottom. So I don't want that. So it needs to scoot up a bit. Basically, you need this to be narrower than that 2-inch strip. So I'm just going to attach this to the back. With this attached, I can go ahead and attach the other side. Next, I'm going to attach the bike, and I'm just applying it to the bottom of the bike. So I'm just positioning it as close to that fold as possible. I can't go past it, but now it looks like, you know, it's kind of popping up. So now I'm going to take a fine tip Sharpie and just draw in the strings that come from the balloons. And then run 3 lines just down and kind of curving in, you know, as if the balloons are somehow attached to the bike. Now, this looks a little plain, so I like to try and get it to not look plain both when it's closed and when it's opened. So, one of the ways I'm going to do that is by using a piece of white to add over here so that I can add a sentiment as well as for a place to sign the card. And that pretty much fills up the closed version of the card. But see, here's the thing. When you open your card, you still have a bit of a gap over here. And I have found that with ones like this, where there's a scene, the best thing to do is to add a tree. So this die is from the Mountain Air set. And this is Pale Pizzazz, and I'm just stamping on top of it with shaded spruce. And then I will just attach this over here, right in that corner. You want to make sure it's behind that fold because, again, if it's too close to the fold, it will interfere with the opening and closing of the card. And as a bonus, it does kind of fill out this space right here when it's closed and when it's open. And it's done. Thanks for watching.